Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm Brendan Lee. In this video I want to talk to you about, do psychic powers exist? Great, cool, welcome back. Yeah, another one from the forum. Thanks for writing in. Question, I had a big discussion with the other students at the retreat. Shameless plug, check the links in the description. I do workshops and retreats. I had another discussion with other students at the retreat about psychic powers, and I realized I never got a clear answer. Probably on purpose. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In the context of this work, I've heard you acknowledge psychic stuff before, referring to it as of the mind. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm still not clear on what being psychic is exactly, if it really does exist. Also, what types of things are possible, and what are the absolute limits of this possibility? Thanks. All right, cool. That's from the forum. Thank you for writing in. Keep writing. It helps me create content for you. Basically, the way that I hold psychic and the way that we hold psychic is like, if you look up psych, it simply means mind, right? Usually most people hold psychic as, like fancy powers, or like, oh, I do some mind stuff and it influences other people, or like to move stuff with your mind, etc. Or I have certain spiritual psychic powers and channeling divas, in touch with God, or whatever, these things that people make up. So right off the bat, in terms of psychic, again, as always, I hesitate to provide you, especially in this case, with a clear answer. The purpose for that is I don't want you to create a belief system about what that is. And I think it's more empowering to hold that like an open question, like, well, what is psychic? First of all, we could start considering, and then I can invite you to consider for yourself, well, what is psychic? And if I mean mind, well, then what am I talking about as mind? And what types of powers are available via mind power or mind alone? Maybe it can make a difference. Maybe not. See? So one place that, so first of all, if we want to look at the reality of psychic, then let's take away all the fantasies about it, right? So all the stories you've heard, all the stuff that tends to go along with like concepts about being psychic, let's take those away and strip all that down. So any books on it that you've read, it's like, okay, well, there's a book, but now what's your actual experience of psychic powers? Do you know anybody who has psychic powers? Now, I'm not saying this to like shut it down, but I'm saying no, like legit. Do you know anybody? If so, what can they do? Have you seen it? Right? Also, do you have any psychic powers? Don't make psychic powers into something that's like, oh, only psychics have these, or like a psychic, but it's not me. You have a mind too, and you do stuff with your mind that I would say is psychic in nature. Like, I want to demystify it. That's what I'm trying to say. Demystify being psychic and look at your actual experience. Isn't it true, for example, that don't you, look at other people and sometimes you might get a vibe from them? What's that about? You see? Like, as if sensing them, sensing where they're at. That to me seems like some kind of psychic ability. Yeah? So now, you said you never got a clear answer. Okay, yeah, don't worry about the clarity of the answer. In this case, perhaps it's more just start to consider like what that might be. Psychic power. Mind power. Yeah? So one example, one place that this shows up for me that I can speak about is, say, in my training in the martial arts, say boxing, or even it shows up in, different places. Like here's one example. I'm really trying to rip you out. There's a UFC fighter, Chuck Liddell, right? He says that when he tries to punch people, when he's going to punch people, he's punching, he imagines that his fists are like paint cans. He is using his mind and imagining like his fists are like paint cans. like full paint cans, you know? And I can see that when I do that and imagine that, now my physiology changes a little bit. The feelings in my fists change a little bit. Now my fists are feeling really heavy. And there's like a different energy, if you will. Again, not energy like some sort of cosmic bloody blah, but just like something I feel in my fists, a different energy in my body. How is that occurring? Via the mind. You see, I'm imagining strongly paint cans in my hands, and it changes things. This is a psychic power. Or Muhammad Ali apparently talks about something. He's like, I've got my radar on. Something that he's calling radar. That's how he is able to evade people, perhaps. You see, it's like, I got my radar on. I know where they're at. You see, what's he talking about? Don't know, but you'd have to ask him. You see, something calling radar. Likely, it is a type of feeling that he has or a sense of where his opponent is. You see, and he calls it his radar. What's that stuff? I'd put that in the psychic domain. You see, I'm trying to rip you off of holding psychic as something only fantastical people do. No, it's like, it's mind stuff. Or even, you know, you can imagine somebody who holds themselves perhaps as a victim, and then their entire world is seen in victimhood. Like everybody they see, they're like worried about them, thinking about them as a victim. It's like everything is their fault. Oh, it's just, I'm a victim of circumstance, you see? And you can see that that reality in which they live isn't real. Especially if you've seen somebody who's like a real victim, like they really live it out as if it's real. You know they're bullshitting, but to them, it looks real. That is another like aspect of mind, like psych or psychic, and see what it creates. The hell, in this case, the hell it creates. So I'm just saying that mind can be very creative. And so psychic powers, to me, it's just like the ability to do something with your mind, right? And, you know, I have been trained in aspects where ways of perceiving realities, again, back to the martial arts, boxing, for example, looking at reality through the filter of a principle as if, and so then my sight starts to shift and I start seeing the interaction from you know, looking at, well, where is their power? How is their power structured? So I can move to cut their power away because now I'm looking at a different reality. And again, this is like mind. Well, in this case, aligning with a principle that allows for, I align my mind with a principle. And so again, like a psychic power perhaps, or ways of working with feeling the space around me so that it fills out and I become more sensitive to what's around me as an act of will. See, again, this is like psychic power. And then it changes how I feel, how I interact. You see? So again, it would be like a psychic power. Now, see, so I'm trying to demystify. Or like, for example, if you're there and you concentrate on one finger and imagine like one finger is lighting up, you see, with a light, you can imagine this, you will start to change the feeling in your finger. That's a psychic power. You change the feeling. Now, you know, some people may claim like, okay, I have psychic power, but then you could also say, well, what good is it? You know, is it useful? That's something you'll have to figure out on your own. Like, where can you use this? I've heard other stories of, you know, teachers doing stuff psychically with students and it made a difference and or it altered their experience somewhat. You see? So then perhaps there's something where you can create different states, create different energies in a room and then influence how people feel about themselves. Perhaps, you know, I don't know, give it a try. If you want. You see? And one other consideration, these, you know, most of these considerations come from Peter, you know, Peter Ralston. One other consideration, like you might think of, there's a guy, say he does like no-touch martial arts or something like that, which is complete bogus horse shit, but in their own world. They can get their students to go along with that, or maybe they can psychically generate a certain energy. So then you'd think, oh, well, they could just, use this generated psychic energy against a fighter or something. But one of the things that Peter argues, and this makes total sense, is that the fighter also has their own psychic power. You see, somebody who's used to being in that interaction, they can control their mind, and they have a certain presence about them. It's like professionals. They got a different feel about them, how they are when they fight, than somebody who just is an amateur. You see, and it's like that is like an energetic feel. I know I've been around that before. You see, and it's like, oh, I can tell they got something else going on. And again, that's like psychic shit. You see, so they already have their own powers. It's just this doesn't fit into the what I imagine of the fantastical psychic paradigm. So I keep trying to rip you out of that, and basically come down to, well, what is it that you can do with your mind, and does it work or not, or what does it do when you do that? So now, what's possible? I don't know. Check it out. What are the upper limits of that? Not sure. I don't dabble much in the like more fantastical domains. I've heard some stories. I may have done a little bit of my own here and there, but what are the upper limits of that possibility? I am not sure. You would have to, as far as I can tell, it will only be limited to what you can create and what you think is possible. Now, barring that, however, I do think there are other factors to consider, like, I don't know any psychic people ever that can like break objects, because objects have their own power. That's my observation. Objects are very strongly remaining objects. No matter what psychic shit you throw at an object, it just kind of sits there. And unless you can find me somebody, which I'm open. If you're listening and you know somebody that has like telekinesis, or that could break a 2x4 with their mind without touching it, let me know. But I bet that if somebody could do that with their mind, that would already be a big thing, or they would be filmed or something in this day of digital stuff. So to answer your last question, upper limits, I don't know. Okay, so that's what I've got for you. Again, one of my main things is I want to ward you off of the fantasy of psychic powers and all of that stuff that seems to be attached to being a psychic or being spiritual or having mind control or doing all this crap. All the fantasy stuff, because like in order to get at something real, it's useful to toss off the fantasies, because fantasies are not real. What's real is what's real, whatever that is. And again, I'm not saying one way or another in this case, just to hold open so that then you can go investigate and discover more. Yeah. Now, one place you can look, which might be useful, is notice that, like, say if people are doing energetic stuff, which I could put in the psychic domain, whenever there is somebody teaching somebody about energetic stuff, one of the things that always seems to be the case is they have the person who's being taught imagine or visualize something. You see, there is like and they might even say it as if it's a fucking fact. Like, there's a cosmic universal energy that's flowing through you. What's the person who hears that gonna do? Especially if you trust me and you think and you endow me with some sort of knowledge of ethereal things that you don't know about, but you're like, oh, this person is a real authority and they really experience that. So if I tell you like, hey, there is actually a universal energy and it flows through you from the top of your head down to your feet and then out your body, and it permeates everything, and it's got a special name. What are you going to do with that? You're going to make something up aligned with that, and it might change your experience. You see? Now, is there actually a universal energy that flows through you? Some people watching the video might be like, well, yes, of course it has. Yeah, well, where did you hear that from? And then other people watching the video be like, no, that's bullshit. In either case, if you imagine strongly that there is a universal energy flowing through you from the top of your head to your feet, you're going to start to change your experience. There does seem to be a connection between imagining something to be the case and my felt sense of what that's like. And this I would put in the psychic domain. You see, like show me Show me somebody who's teaching psychic stuff that doesn't have you imagine like something is some way, or there is an energy. They'll tell you there's an energy. They'll tell you there's a diva talking to you. And then what are you going to do? Well, you're going to align with that. And then your experience might change to something that is aligned with that. And then you might think it's real. Is it real or not? Who cares? See? If I told you were just making it up, you'd probably have a problem with that. You know, like Peter would say, it's like people don't want to realize that they can create their reality in the ways that they do. But that's another story. In either case, I in the work that I do say like consciousness and then skill. What good is it? Is it useful for something? Can you use it? What are the consequences of using it? How does it show up? What can be accomplished? How does it function? Is it functional? You know, these kinds of things I invite people to question. Yeah. But then, and then again, in terms of, is it real or not? Well, that's another consideration. And in that place, if you want to know if it's real or not, well, you might want to get, well, what mind is. And if you are making it up, it would be useful for you to grasp, say, who and what you are, so you know what you're talking about when you say you. Otherwise, you run into the problem that we talk about, is the problem of identification. What you identify as you, is that really you or not? And again, different video, who knows? See, so just trying to break that open. Yeah, so that's what I have for you about psychic powers and abilities. Take care not to fall too much into fantasy. Keep questioning, wondering about it. See what you can create. Yeah, and then you explore the upper limits of that and enjoy. Okay? So cool, I'm Brendan Lee with theBrendanLee.com in support of consciousness and skill worldwide, which is founded by Peter Rawlinson. If you want to get a little serious, I've got links in the description. Got a free course, paid course, hire me to be an online coach. Most importantly, you're invited to come here and do a workshop. We do not do workshops on psychic ability. If you're looking for that, no, we don't do that. We do workshops in the domain of consciousness. Okay, they're very powerful events that will move you much better than a book, video, movie, anything like that, because it's live and it's experiential. All right, so you're definitely invited to do that, but please write to me, write to my forum. Again, links in the description. It helps me create content for you. It also helps me work and consider a little bit along with you as we go. Okay? So take care, much love. I'm Brendan Lee with theBrendanLee.com in support of consciousness and skill worldwide. Till next time, catch you later. Bye.